Okay, well, let's go ahead and get started. Thanks for joining this morning. Hope everyone's enjoying the conference. My name is Matt Cowell. I'm the CEO at QuantHub, and QuantHub is a relatively early stage company out of Birmingham, Alabama, and we are focused on really two things. One is helping organizations build great data teams. So think data science, data engineering, data analyst type capabilities, as well as building a great a high degree of data literacy across the entire enterprise. And so we're a talent solution and really focused on all things data, helping organizations become more data driven and really participate in the future of work. And we like to say that data is the asset of the future as well as the skill of the future. And organizations just need to up their data skills to participate in that. And so today is a demo session. So we're just going to do a quick run through of the QuantHub solution and kind of give you an idea of our focus and the value that we can bring to customers. Okay, let's see here. So why data? I don't need to go through a lot of this for you, so I won't spend much time on this, but just briefly, the economic opportunity of digital transformation is incredible. Even in just the US alone, it's $2 trillion worth for the US GDP. This is obviously a global opportunity. We're just not there from a data skill perspective. Interesting stat from the World Economic Forum is on average, employees globally need, and this is not way off in the future, by 2022, we'll need 101 days of upskilling and reskilling to meet the demands from a skill perspective of future jobs. 101 days is over half a work year. And so that's a lot of upskilling. And so at QuantHub, we want to participate in that. That is really our mission, is to help increase data fluency all over the world. And our solution does that through assisting with hiring. We have an assessment platform for data skills used in hiring, as well as upskilling and reskilling. And I'll talk more in depth about that. We've been around for almost 3 years. And really have been fortunate to serve a number of leading companies in that journey. Just yesterday, actually, the United States Navy signed on for upskilling. HP leverages QuantHub for hiring. McKinsey is a management consulting firm, of course, that uses us globally for hiring. And so we've had a good start. I think we're onto something in that organizations need to upskill in data. And there just aren't great solutions out there. There are a lot of training solutions out there, but we like to think we take a different approach to that and really focus much more on learning. And so just a little bit about QuantHub and going through kind of how this functions and a little bit about the product. We do have an assessment platform covering all things data that companies use in the hiring process. We have multiple types of assessments. We have a foundational skill assessment that covers data skills, and basically you choose the skills you want to assess candidates on. And those assessments go out to candidates. It's a very standardized kind of assessment approach. It's adaptive to the skills of the candidate, so that if they're doing well, it will get harder. If they're doing poorly, it will get easier. We cover lots of data skills I'll talk about in a second. And so companies like McKinsey use that, and HP use that early in the hiring process to ensure candidates have the foundational skills to do the job before they spend time interviewing them, before they spend a lot of time talking to those candidates. Beyond that, kind of later in the process, we have data challenges that are meant to be more hands-on, meant to be more practical and kind of indicative of the job. So those are going to be case study based, and those are based in Jupyter notebooks. Candidates will actually have to go through, and if it's a data science candidate, implement models. If it's a data engineering candidate, wrangle large kind of considerations around storage, migration, and so on. And so those are much more hands-on, and companies typically use those later in the hiring process because they're a little bit more involved. Just to give you a sense of the skills that we cover, we like to say we cover all things data. And so that starts with really data essentials or data literacy. which is a big use case for us. We have customers that are trying to improve data literacy across the enterprise. And so that could be in HR roles, sales roles, marketing roles, not just data professionals, but just, kind of broad data literacy concepts, data storytelling, data visualization, data structures. What are the use cases for AI? They may not be practitioners, but increasing the literacy across the enterprise is critical for companies to be more data-driven and to get value out of their data. Beyond there, it gets into more of the data professional skills. Our taxonomy is modeled after the CRISP-PM framework, and so the data mining framework, and so it's very much meant to model after a day in the life of a data professional, starting with data project planning, going all the way through to storing, wrangling, modeling, exploration, and so on. And then, of course, we cover programming concepts, Python, R, PySpark. We cover data platforms like Spark. And so really all things data. And so that we're completely focused on data. We think, as I mentioned earlier, data is the asset and the skill of the future. And so our entire focus is on data, in making sure that companies can hire well from a data perspective, but also upskill in data. To give you a sense of what our questions look like, our upfront foundational skill assessments are, when it comes to kind of the concepts like modeling, wrangling, data storage, migration, these types of concepts, those are typically going to be either multiple choice questions like the question on the screen here, or could be short write-in questions if you're asked to do a calculation in, let's say, statistics or some other form of mathematics. And so certainly we cover those types of concepts. We also cover programming skills, as I mentioned, R, Python, SQL. And so those questions are going to be a little bit more hands-on. You're actually writing code. We are evaluating these questions based on unit testing that we have behind the scenes. So we'll do assertions on the code and ensure that they've actually gotten it right, or obviously would indicate if it's incorrect. And so that gives us the ability to, in a really short upfront assessment, gauge skills of your candidates and do that extremely efficiently. For some companies, they have really, really high volume, like your McKinseys of the world, and it just can't be done manually. So those upfront assessments have to be done with an assessment type platform. And us being focused on all things data, puts us in a nice spot to do that. Other companies just can't afford to make bad hires. And so that's where our assessment approach and kind of proven results help ensure that you are in fact hiring someone that has the skills to do the job. Moving forward into the second area of our platform is really around upskilling. And I mentioned earlier that we take a different approach to upskilling than other solutions that are out there. There are a tremendous number of quote unquote training solutions that exists in and around data. The challenge is those training solutions are often based on what we would call an event-based learning model, meaning if I need to learn these skills, oftentimes I immediately think of training, and then that means that I'm going to schedule a couple days off-site. I'm going to learn a lot of information in a short amount of time over those 2 days, and via some sort of magic, I'm going to bring that information back into the job and use it every day. The reality is, and we all know this from our own experience, that does not happen. We go off-site, we learn all of this information, we come back, and then we get inundated with the day-to-day things of the job, and the knowledge decays, which is just fundamental learning science, and then we don't remember what we learned. Unfortunately, some of the best training that I've ever been to, I don't remember a thing from. So it's very unfortunate, but there are a lot of studies that show there's just a tremendous amount of money in the corporate world wasted on that type of training. So for us, we want training to fit into what people do every day, which is they learn on the job. So how do we learn on the job? Well, if I don't know something, if I don't know a skill, what do? Well, I quickly assess that I don't know this skill. And then I go to Google or I go to Stack Overflow and I search and I find the information and I immediately put it into practice. That's how we learn on the job. And that's very effective. We all know that we learn effectively on the job. And so QuantHub, our upskilling solution, implements that exact approach. It's very much an iterative, continuous process where our assessments help people figure out where their skills are. We help them determine where their strengths are and where their weaknesses are from a data perspective. They can actually benchmark those skills against the skills of others in other roles. And then immediately we're providing them with learning recommendations. Those learning recommendations are as simple as blog posts or videos or these types of resources that are easily consumable in 5 minutes, 10 minutes over a sandwich, over lunch, or very much fitting into that flow of work, just like they do when they're learning on the job. And then we reassess. We reassess in very short, very quick assessments aimed at helping us understand the skill set so that we can provide even more recommendations. And so that continuous learning process, that culture of continuous learning, to be honest, is infectious. And we've seen it with early customers. We've seen people really gravitating towards that continuous approach of learning because it fits right into what they're doing every day. And that's really the core of our approach, is to make it continuous and really consumable every day. So just to give you a sense of what that looks like, again, I'll start with assessment questions. Very easy to answer, very quick to answer. These are examples of broad data literacy questions, which again are not just appropriate for your technical professionals, but appropriate across the entire enterprise. Really, they make the job of us technical professionals a little easier because now everyone starts understanding data. They start understanding what data quality means and why it matters for sales, marketing, so that they can enter high quality data. And then those of us that analyze it can actually leverage quality data in our analysis, which we know is so critical. And so this starts with these assessment questions. Very easy, very lightweight, easy to go through quick. And then we immediately jump into the upskilling dashboard, which is where you can see a visual of your skill set. And you can see that skill set across the various dimensions of data skills as we define them at QuantHub. And this kind of starts motivating people to improve their skills. But we don't leave it to them. We immediately put recommendations in front of them. And so in this particular case, data project planning, identifying data project pitfalls, modeling, comparing classification and regression. These recommendations are directly based on my assessment results. So the QuantHub will develop that understanding of your skill set over time and will continue to provide those types of recommendations. Just jumping in a little bit as to what it looks like when I have those recommendations. In this particular case, this recommendation is on data visualization. It's on interpreting line charts. So beyond actually just providing a link to this article, in really kind of an open source training model, these articles are freely available online. We also insert or inject questions that directly can be answered in that article. Those are called digital scavenger hunts. It's an active learning technique that has been proven to engage people in learning when you're actually reading something with the purpose of answering a question. And so we ask 2 or 3 questions tied to those resources. This does 2 things. It actually engages people in that content, but it also gives us an ability to measure their progress. And so this type of thing helps us actually continue to get more information on the skill set of the individual. And then we can just recommend and continue to recommend new resources that fit directly in with the skill needs of that individual. And so these things are daily. They're coming at people on a daily basis, and they're just taking 5 to 10 minutes per day. And so you can see where that kind of continuous learning fits into people's schedules very easily. Beyond that, we don't necessarily want people to actually have to go out and seek out learning. Self-directed learning is great in that it provides flexibility, but it's a lot of friction. People are busy. We're inundated via lots of different communication channels, texts, Slack, Teams, email. So we're constantly being bombarded with different things, and our ability to step out of that and actually go and seek out learning sometimes is a challenge. And so what we're doing is we're trying to put that learning right in front of people where they are. And so we have a bot framework in Slack as well as Microsoft Teams. And that bot framework just simply puts these resources right in front of you where you are. So it will say it's time for your learning resource for the day, and it will be a link to that article or that blog post or that video. And again, it will have those questions right side by side with that article, so we can engage you in that content, but we can also measure and chart your progress. And so that is a quick run through of QuantHub. I know that was meant to be relatively brief and kind of give you a sense of what we do at QuantHub. I do want to actually go back into the window and see if there are any questions from the audience. I believe you can actually chat questions. If you have any questions on kind of what we do at QuantHub and how we do it, happy to address any of those questions now. Looks like we have a few people online here. Okay, I'll wait for you while you're entering questions. Again, happy to answer any questions. But one thing I did want to mention was when it comes to the types of skills that we help organizations upskill in, it really varies across that entire spectrum of data skills, as I mentioned earlier. And so we certainly want to cover data literacy across the enterprise, rolled out to sales, marketing, HR, and so on. But beyond that, companies and customers of ours use this for upskilling their data scientists, upskilling their data engineers as well, helping them kind of benchmark and figure out where their skills are, and then immediately start applying that information to learning. Let's see if we have any questions here. Doesn't look like we have any. Questions. Okay. Well, in terms of how you get in touch with us, we're available at QuantHub.com. My email address is mcowell@QuantHub.com. Happy to answer any questions that you have. We'll also be we're a sponsor of this conference, and so we'll be available in the sponsor area as well. We're available via video there, and so happy to answer any questions there as well. I want to thank everyone for joining, and I think this is it. If you have any questions I'll stay on chat here for a few minutes, and if you have any questions for me via chat, please feel free to reach out. I will put my email address here in the chat as well. Thanks for joining, everyone.